Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast. My name's Stephen Rosen, and in this podcast we go beneath the surface of people's lives to find out what makes them tick. My own life I wrote about in this book, Lost in the Babylon. It's through childhood adversity, organised crime and a successful life as a businessman in the city. When I talk to people, we go beneath the surface of where they got to in their lives and we find out what really makes them tick. So if you want to follow me, connect to me with social media at Cockney Profit. And if you enjoy this podcast, please like it, subscribe or follow us and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast with me, Stephen Rosen, and my guest today, Chris Geisler. Chris, how you doing, brother?
I'm very good. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for hosting. I'm excited for this journey we're about to embark on.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting one. I was thinking about all last year inviting you as a guest and just never felt the right time. But I think we're aligned now on many different things. And
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. You know, it's a journey, isn't it? And all these conversations, like your podcast, I imagine are just organic conversations.
You have to feel that pull or that like now moment of inviting someone on. I've realised I don't actually say to people like they have to. People reach out to me and say, "Can I come on the podcast?" And I'm like, kind of has to be me who asks.
Yeah.
Has to be that way around, right?
Yeah.
Because that's because you're interested and you're in that moment with the guest. So yeah, it's
and it's really I mean, I sometimes I meet people and on a conversation or just like a sentence, I think, wow, there's something really interesting within this person that they've come up with this sentence, and I'd love to explore that more. So quite often, I mean, I know we've kind of met and we're in the Men of Earth, which you run. I'm a member of that, but quite often, I just meet people for the first time and I know that, this person's got something, experience of life or the way that they process life, and, it's so valuable because there's so much noise out there. There's so much, you just mentioned biohacks, and there's so many people just always just looking for like the shortcut, and life really is never about a shortcut. I mean,
there are no quick fixes.
No, I found that I was looking for that. I kind of went on that journey of like that was the way forward through life, through my younger life, and realised that it never was. Everything was just transitory. It was temporary. If I got a lot of money, it was gone. If I got this, it was gone. There was never any substance to it, never any foundation to it. And I think that, the kind of work that's going on in the container, in the Men of Earth container, and what I see you doing is building, it's building. So I think, when I meet someone who's not particularly looking for that shortcut, looking for that route, but is willing to get down and really, take ownership and take stock of what's going on. And sometimes, I feel that in the energy of someone, and it may be something they say, and it may be the first time I met them, and I just know that this person has got some, they're genuine, they're authentic. And they're the kind of people that I think the conversations we need to put out into this world, they're the kind of people that I want to talk to anyway. And you're definitely one of them. So welcome.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were referring to me then.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Do you want to let us know a little bit about, where you come from? Because, I mean, it plays a big part in our lives now, in the present moment, doesn't it? Where we
For
come
sure.
from.
Absolutely. Phew. Yeah, well, I appreciate being here. It's nice to be hosted and be in your company and go on this journey of conversation together. Where did I come from? Born in Worcestershire, 1989, and grew up into quite a normal, like, kind of lower middle class, I guess, family. Me and my brother, my mum and dad. Quite a standard, normal childhood, I'd say. There was nothing kind of crazy that happened. It was very like, felt normal, you know. I did feel like a normal kid in school. But what's normal isn't always natural.
Yeah.
As to what I've learned. But yeah, the childhood is something I've had to go back to, you know, to understand what shaped me. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, I grew up in Worcester. Went to primary school, high school, and then things got interesting as I went to college.
Right.
And that's really where I guess you'd say the symptoms of like stuff that I couldn't fully be okay with, or there was things happening that was causing like disconnection with myself. And I went to college and then just started to go out into town before I was 18. And I'd say that these were like the years of my life which was like probably most poignant and like revealing about who I was or who I wasn't.
Can you sort of identify could
sure.
you at the time identify what was happening?
No.
Because things is like, it can be
No,
anything.
I would justify any behaviour, right?
Yeah.
I could justify it. Similar to probably your journey. We have a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But also very different, I think. I would be going out into town and getting into fights and being very aggressive. Started to really like throw my weight around and just that was also normal. People are doing that, you know. It's in our lad culture, and nothing I was doing was really out of the ordinary. You know, I'd get into fights, I'd go get into trouble, I'd get arrested and get sent down for the night and then back the next day, and it's just a joke, it's a laugh, and for some people
it's
it
like
is
a proving ground as well.
For some people it is, and they move through it and they go on to get a job and have families and kids, and that's the status quo, it's the mainstream. That was definitely not my path. When I was 19, I got sent to Crown Court, and I was faced with quite an ultimatum of like, did you do this? Because for a whole year I was pretending and hiding from the fact that I did anything wrong.
Hiding from the authority, or yourself?
Yeah, from both, of course. I was denying, like, I was carrying the narrative that I'd get away with this. You're not in trouble unless you get caught.
It's interesting, and if I can just jump in there, that you know the self narrative that you've done nothing wrong. I mean, I can identify that because by that time I already had a belief system in place that sustained what I was doing. That was the right thing for me. So in my own view, I wasn't wrong. So was you in that place, or did you have some conflict of like, maybe this isn't great? Or
I knew I wasn't a bad person. I never adopted that mindset or belief that I was like, I needed to be punished, or, you know, I was never in the place of really like admitting there was an issue within me. It was just this mask that I was wearing. But more context is I went to Crown Court after a series of things. I was in the paper, like from stealing a statue in town, in town, in the Guildhall, all very like prankster energy, quite funny. But again, I draw the distinction of like, this is normal for me at the time. I could justify it. But looking back, I don't think any of it is healthy or normal. And I would definitely lead on to that. But the real crux of it was, saying that I did these things. I was always trying to get away from things. I was trying to get away to not be caught, to not get in trouble. So I was in a fight and I bottled someone and didn't get caught at the time, but it came to Crown Court and it was like the evidence was there and someone put me in the fray, and I had to just say yes, it was me, because the other route was not going to be
viable.
beneficial. Yeah, I had to admit, my mum and dad came to Crown Court, and I was like, it's kind of now or never that I, what happens after this? Do I just live this lie? I just remember having to like swallow the pride pill that I feel like was the huge deal at the time. And then they just sent me down for it was 14-month sentence and getting carried away. I mean, I'd already been in prison
on
twice
the guilty,
before.
So it would have been like a bigger sentence had you got found guilty and not gone guilty.
Potentially.
Yeah, well, definitely, I would imagine.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could have been, I don't know if they could justify.
But what I find interesting compared to where I was at in my energy, and I, had Crown Court cases that I completely challenged and went not guilty, and unfortunately was found not guilty.
Yeah.
But there was for me at that point, there was what I'm hearing from you is like the sense of an opportunity to change. For me, I was just in that energy and I was moving forward in that energy. But what I'm hearing there is that, you've recognised that actually you've gone, you've pleaded guilty, you've gone into prison, and it sounds like there's a different path coming from that, possibly. I don't know. It sounds like it.
Yeah, I spent about 6 months on home detention curfew.
Right.
So I was on tag for a good 6 months before. So I'd already realised that something was going on that I needed to recognise. So really I'd learnt my lesson before I went in, but I was still trying to get away with it. And just not able to hold the responsibility and the energy which would have come my way if I had said to my parents. Because if I admit I'm wrong and I'm in trouble and I've done these things, then what? Like, I was always constantly around people that were, always trying to get away from things. You're really not. People do get away with stuff, and that was just the rhetoric. That was the mindset I was trying to avoid, because I just justified all the behaviour, like it wasn't my fault, And being drunk, I can blame it on the drink, as a lot of people do, but it's actually what's underneath that. And at the time, I learned my lesson before I went in, but then I went into prison. I was realistically only in there for about 4 months and then came out again on curfew. But it was a whole year of my life I was on some detention, whether inside or at home.
And sorry, what age were you?
This was 19.
19, yeah.
Yeah, so a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's like half of my life. I'm 36 now, so
Right.
yeah. And I really didn't reconcile what the energy was that was causing this until I went traveling, right? I went straight to university. I still was reckless. I was pretty wild. Didn't really have much of a conscience, let's say. I would still do things that were just, not by my values and standards now, like were just juvenile and irresponsible. But I was in a different city, so it was also around different people, so there was also like a healthier version of it, I'd say. But then got into more drugs, and that actually subdued the part of me that was angry, I think. That was like connecting to love and oneness and being in club culture and going to dance, electronic music, and I was really like around people that actually like cared about themselves a little bit more and were wanting to learn, going to university, and it's a different window of opportunity, I think. That really supported me, got me out of my own echo chambers and just city mindset, small town mindset, where I know everyone and everyone expects things of me. Yeah. And that was huge for me, because we live in amongst these perceptions of who people think and expect us to be. And if I don't want to be someone, if I want to be trying to step into a different version of myself, is that even possible within the friendship group that I'm in? Like, the culture that men operate in. Yeah. If anyone tries to better themselves or to set a better standard for themselves, that friends are, they'll be like, whatever. Yeah, you're trying not to drink. How long will that last? Or whatever it will be. They rely on a version of me because it keeps them safe, or it keeps them in the behaviours that they're already in.
And that's that's such a big point, because I'm as I'm listening to that, I'm reflecting on the the group that I come up in and the energy and the areas that I grew up in, and yeah, it was just so much. Yeah, I mean, personally, I was just trying to fit in. I know that now. I didn't know it at the time, but yeah, there was no stepping out of that for me. But it sounds like you found that route, you know.
Yeah.
That's just, there's something within you there. I can feel that, something within you that knows that actually, you know, there's a different route, and what I'm hearing is just so much external conditioning and external expectations of as a person, you know, as a developing person, you know, wanting and needing to find some sort of ground, to some stability, some security, to fit in. You know, there's a big pull to meet that, isn't there? To meet that external projection, what's coming from your friends that you're talking about, or society, or whatever. It's a real big piece to that. I think with hindsight, to look back on in life, it's easy to see, but at the time, you know, I'm thinking for the kids out there now who are in this, you know, it's really hard to see that stuff, isn't it?
It's very hard, yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah. Takes a lot. Takes someone who's not afraid to fail or afraid to be seen failing, and just to want more from life and not settle, and just hide in a group or in a playground dynamic or whatever it might be. Like, most people are really just trying to fit in and get by. I think school is about survival for guys, depending on where you're at in the social hierarchy, and what your friendship group is like. But for me, it was really like constantly on guard, you know, that hypervigilance, just like not wanting to be laughed at, to be mocked, to be outcasted, just trying to kind of make friends with the right people, and to really just get by.
Yeah, it probably sounds like a lot of young men growing up.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like the things we love talking about now and love to be a part of is that we're really trying to like change that dynamic and how we relate to each other. I think it's the culture, and as we've alluded to, it can be very toxic. The toxic culture that does kind of surround us as men. It's changing for sure. But yeah, I went to university and then got out of my comfort zone as well, and like being more curious about why I was the way I was. But after that, I went traveling, and that was when the real shift happened. Like my heart was opening, like I was connecting to life in deeper ways, reading The Alchemist, reading books, and relating to people in very different ways. People who are really curious about themselves and again, why they are the way they are. That was huge for me. I was having incredible experiences, and just like away from everything I knew. And I think this is so important for men, for everyone. It was like a rite of passage. It was a threshold. I didn't return the same person, but it took me many years to integrate that. I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any understanding of what these experiences were about. I still came back, and there's obviously a huge thing here.
Yeah. So I mean, the experiences. I mean, obviously, I'm hearing a lot of life experiences, a lot of being exposed just to different people doing different things with different ideas, you know. But was there like spirituality in that? Was there any sense of like, you know, there's more than, just more than the status quo, what we're sold, you know? I never travelled young, so I never went through that journey. So I'm just curious to learn, you know, what energies you met there and how they influenced you. Maybe not at the time, as you said, but later on.
Yeah, I'd say for sure spirituality, like really realizing that there's way more to life than we can ever understand. The material world, which very Western approach, very science driven, is a very small piece of what we're a part of, and actually what we can see, sense, touch, feel, smell is like one aspect of the realm of existence, right? And yeah, reading books and learning and spending time in temples and understanding about Eastern wisdom. I was in Cambodia for pretty much a whole year. Well, about 6 months. I was in Southeast Asia for the year. And yeah, just chanting, singing, like being around meditation, being around more, like esoteric teachings. That shifted and changed things. I was just open-minded, just willing to be curious about certain things. I still had a lot of judgment. I still had a lot of resentment towards certain aspects of life, I guess. But I met my partner who I was with for a long time, and she changed a lot for me. She was asking huge questions, and just really like being with that, having the time to sit with those questions and contemplate. It was like solitude. I did meditation retreats and went into silence, and I started teaching at a community center in rural Cambodia, and just realizing that what fulfillment meant, what happiness was, what really success could be in life, like all the conditions of us as we grow up, our worth placed on the things that we can achieve and accomplish, and that equates to happiness. Just very basic things, but to like really live and experience them through other people who didn't have anything and were really, living and happy and connected and lived in community and sat in circle, and that's just something I didn't really have. Go to church on a.
It sounds like
afternoon.
I mean the big piece in that is allowing yourself to be with you, to have time with you.
Yeah, it's a nervous system thing.
Yeah, which doesn't happen, in those other environments. So, what I'm hearing is the external environments you put yourself in have really facilitated you allowing yourself just to be with you and start working things out. And that's a deep internal journey, isn't it? And I think it takes a lot of time, but definitely having the support of different communities, different ideas, as you say, people who've got hardly anything but are fulfilled and whole. I mean, that's something that used to fascinate me and still does. I understand it a bit more, but I used to occasionally watch TV and they'd do a documentary on these kids in India or somewhere living off a rubbish tip, and they'd be running around in joy and and I just used to look at their faces and think, how can they be in joy? They're scrabbling about on a rubbish tip, but it wasn't about that for them. It was about there's a different connection that I believe that they have that is lacking in a lot of the Western cultures of how we grow up, and I suppose one of the big pieces that I find is that no one really is still enough to actually find out what's going on. And what I've heard there is that, that whole point of travelling and being challenged with different questions from someone who's close to you and, opening up as just give you that ability to actually, be with Chris, not with all these different versions of who Chris thinks he needed to be, and it's just a big piece, I think, a really big piece.
Yeah, totally. You really hit the nail on the head. It was that.
Yeah.
And I say it's a nervous system piece, is like being in an environment that didn't expect things of me, didn't want me to be a certain way, as you alluded to, but being in an environment that actually, me as a human, getting a lot of needs met, like being outdoors a lot. Like there are natural needs as a human, and our biology has not changed much in hundreds of thousands of years, but the environments in which we live have. And that, I was realizing, was a huge part of my discontent and my frustration, and how am I meant to be nice if I don't feel good? I think a lot of people, they don't feel well, And I don't think that is a good precursor to actually like really allowing someone to be with the challenge of life and to, you know, hold space for others and be in relationship with everyone else. If I'm not feeling fully alive, you know, they say hurt people, right? So if someone's hurting for whatever reason, that might be psychological, but it might also be physically. It's all one thing, and I had to really like look at that and be like, okay, well, what's actually happening here in these environments that I'm really able to access parts of myself that I can then start to live and thrive in a better way. So like being barefoot a lot, right? Being outdoors, being surrounded by people who cared about food. And food was a huge aspect of like these cultures that they haven't lost their connection to it. They're really like, they go and wash in the river and they get their food locally sourced and they come together and they share it. They're not distracted. They're very in the moment with a lot of these things. And that was just making me realize that there was a lot more to do to learn about the human experience. And a lot of the ways I was living was not conducive to like a human that thrived. And that was the first part of my journey, to understand like we have natural norms. We have social norms, and then we have natural norms. And it's socially normal to, you know, eat your food on the go, or to, you know, sit down all day. It's very socially normal, but it's not naturally normal. And these things I was understanding that I needed to look at. And I was obsessed with the question of like, what has allowed us to be in such a position as a species to thrive? Like we thrived above everything else. Like, how are we able to do that? Yeah, I'm sat here feeling purposeless, directionless, like frustrated. Like there's something not quite, you know, there's not something that I need to understand. And it's pain is the biggest precursor to change, right? If we look at it, if we want to alchemize the pain into a life well lived or a purpose, then we need to go into that pain, not try and avoid it or just, you know, put the Band-Aid over it. That was the huge part of it. It was like, okay, I need to access this pain. I need to learn from it. So what's it trying to reveal to me? What's it trying to help me see and help me change something?
It's I mean, I agree with that, and I really understand how we live, certainly in this Western world, the disconnect that's happened between what you was describing there, you know, that natural connection to being, to nature, to food, to purity. You know, we've gradually been sold as a better version and as a quicker version, that, you know, we don't need to do all of that. We can process all this stuff and we can put it on there and you can have it on the go. And you know, all of these shortcuts, getting back to shortcuts, we've been sold that. And part of that, selling that as well, that what we've been sold, and I say we just generally, is that, you know, we can avoid pain. We don't want pain. We just want the shiny things. We want the bright things that make us feel lovely. And people, come to pain. Everyone experiences pain, but most people flee from pain. And I say that from, you know, I wrote that book there. I say that from a perspective of understanding now that I engineered my whole life around not being with me because it was painful, because I couldn't be with me. You know, so if I take my example and kind of look at society and think, you know, what you're talking about is actually the more we move into these other systems of avoidance, of disconnection, the less chance we've got to actually be whole and complete and know who we are and, be content with who we are. You know, we look and create false systems of security, systems of illusion, which, everyone else is doing out there. And it's like, so it's so valuable. And I just wanted to pick up on that point, you know, because it's such a big point, I think. But getting back to being with the pain. I mean, that is a journey on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being with the pain.
It's not linear.
And how did you allow yourself to be with your pain?
Beautiful question. Yeah, I think the pain that we are forced to feel holds everything. And as you said, we are in a culture, in a system that avoids it or tries to fix it rather than learn of what it is, which is a teacher. It's a signal, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Someone said on a podcast I did, is like, why would I want to get you out of pain? Why would I want to get you out of that? I want to get you into life. If you get into life, then the pain will just fall away. So it's like, listen to the pain. The pain's the teacher. And the pain can be a myriad of things also. It can be the thing that breaks my heart, right, about the world, but not turning away from that. Actually leaning towards it and being like, okay, how does this inform what I want to do with this life? Often purpose was lacking for me. It was a huge aspect of the journey. I felt a lot of pain because I didn't really have I felt like my life didn't have much meaning. It didn't have much purpose. So what do I do with that? How do I navigate life with this pain? I have to go away for a while. I have to learn and sit with that. I have to go to solitude to be with it. What the precursors to that was, I couldn't tell you. Like I've always had a knowing that it doesn't have to be this way, and it's so possible to live, thrive, wake up in the morning with a smile on my face and be very connected in life. I just know that's possible. People experience it, and no one is different to you. Like no one was ever different to me. I always saw that there's a road to all these possibilities. I always had that connection, and just had to step foot on that journey. Just had to start a podcast, be curious, start asking the right questions, start spending time alone, because that is really revealing of the things that I don't want to avoid. I put out a post recently about like the lessons I've learned and like moving towards the fear. Like, what do I fear? What's my relationship to money? What's my relationship to sex? What's my relationship to power? Asking questions in myself, journaling, and knowing what the aspects of myself that I've repressed, denied, or disregarded. Anger is a huge emotion that is very relevant, and one thing that I avoided and I had a relationship to which did not serve me. And if I've got a relationship to an emotion which is wrong or bad and I'm labeling it as so, then it's really going to cause more disconnection, and I'm going to project that out into the world. And every time I see or feel that emotion, I'm going to have tension in my body. So I had to learn more about that and access to information. Like, there's no reason why anyone needs to suffer alone anymore, because there is so much information on how to support yourself and how to support and heal. And we don't live in these silos anymore. We have so much access to information that anyone can learn anything about anything. It's all out there. It's all free. So I just had to go on that journey.
I think it is. There's so much information,
which can cause pain as well. It's not,
and it can, and I think, you know, I was just thinking back to before I actually met you. I used to. I think I started following you on social media, and I saw some of the retreats you was doing, like men's retreats, and they was they was like around a fire. They was in like a group. They was kind of like a bit native looking, and you know men shouting and stuff like that. And at the time, I mean, I think I've been on quite a journey myself. I was thinking, yeah, that's not for me, right? And I just wonder how a lot of men who are shut down, who know that there's information out there, there's all this stuff out there, and the big mental health thing is been a big way for people to start accessing that.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder where comes the point in a man's life who's not open and who's not particularly gone on this deep rite of passage journey, you know, how do they find, where do they get the willingness to access that and eventually I've been on a couple of retreats. I've done the one in the forest and we was climbing trees and it was like, wow, you know, when did I forget to do this stuff in my life, you know? Yeah. And I'm, you know, I was probably in my 60s, early 60s then. And just, yeah. So once again, even though I thought I was fairly open and I'd been on a healing journey, you know, there were certain things that I looked at that I just thought, yeah, that's not for me. And until I tried it and then, you know, found access to actually, now I understand. And the connection of that stuff, I'm sure, what you have done and you do in some of your retreats gets right back to that land stuff that you was talking about earlier, that connection. And that's what I always felt, you know, I felt a big connection to nature and it was my first concept of I don't know, I use the word God, but it's not a universal that everyone understands, it's just this energy. But it was my first concept of there was something outside of me that was really powerful. And it was the stars and it was that kind of stuff. And the more that I've allowed myself to get back to that, the more I feel in myself that actually, you know, I need that stuff. You know, I need that connection. And and I just think it's, just for people that I'm thinking, people that maybe some of the people that watch this that are not, you know, running around in forests and stuff like that. You know, it's... there's so much value in there and there's so much connection in there. And I'm so glad that I, for one, met someone like you that led me into like the possibility of like, you know, just try this. Because, you know, nothing's expected of you. We're not out on a game. We're just being human. We're being real. We're connecting. We're opening up space that we never had before, you know?
Totally.
So it's just, I just wanted to bring that in because...
Yeah, thank you.
It's so, it feels so inaccessible to a lot of people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I talk to them all the time.
Yeah.
About how much resistance there is to be willing to be wrong about something. Because we all have our preconceptions and judgments. We will judge something we don't understand. I'd say you have to come on a Men of Earth retreat.
Yeah, definitely.
And they've evolved and they've changed over time. The connection of, you know, the natural world is still there. It is Men of Earth. It's funny you should say Being Human because that was the first name of the men's group. It was called Being Human Community. And then it changed to Men of Earth. But it was about connection. It was about coming back to the land. It was about coming back to each other, but through like getting into the sea and being out there and being wild, connecting to the wild man, because the wild man is lost. And people have disconnected from the wild woman and the wild man in our culture. Yeah. And that's ancestral. And that is rooting us to belonging and meaning and purpose and fulfillment and joy and connection with each other. And it's powerful. It's the biggest act of rebellion is to reclaim the wild man, I believe.
And it's a great leveler as well, isn't it? It's great, you know, people, and there was people on that retreat that I went, I think there was an guy who does, I can't say
gynecologist or something.
Yeah, I've been with a gynecologist, but you know, people in quite different positions in life.
Yeah,
you know, business people, all different people. Yeah. And then you're there on a level playing field, and it's not about any of that stuff that any of the roles that we are in life. It's about, you know, that pure connection of as you say, that ancestral stuff that has been lost. And I suppose, you know, what I'm thinking is how do we get more people into this process that we do in the men's circle? And it's, you know, in the men's circle, it's not all about that. It's a lot of kind of owning our stuff, you know, becoming vulnerable, you know, seeing each other, speaking our truth. You know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on that, you know, people maybe don't see that. They just see a part of it and they're put off by that part of it. So I really think it's valuable to...
Absolutely.
Yeah, to explain, you know, this process that I'm in, that I see you in. You know, you posted a thing in the group yesterday, which was, I just saw some vulnerability in you. You was talking about, you know, just where you're at with work and stuff like that. And it was just, you know, it was really like, wow, you know, this is so valuable, this stuff. It's so valuable to, you know, be around people who are actually recognising the process that they're in, and working through it, you know, I mean, and not hiding from it, and not, you know, looking for an out or using the anger to, you know, just go to that one because that's an easy one. You know, there's what's going on underneath that, and I see all of that process happening in you, and it's the work that you're doing, putting out into the world, and yeah, it's just so valuable, so valuable. I mean, you know, people might have a concept of men's work, but you know, men's work is learning how to be a man, and it's not just being the warrior or, you know, whatever it is. It's integration, isn't it? It's so much going on. The level that we work at in the circle, and the level that I try to live and integrate, there's just so much going on, and the subtleties of the shifts are really, I notice them now. I notice my own. You know, I notice if I'm in my warrior energy, and I want to be in my sensitivity, or I want to be somewhere in life where the right response comes out to the right, to meet whatever's, you know, is asking of me, you know?
Yeah. Let me ask you, what have you benefited from in the community? Because you've been in there over 2 years now.
I think what I've benefited in the community is being around other men that are doing this work. You know, I've done this work on my own, and you know, I wrote that book, you know, that was published before I joined the community. But what I really recognised was a lot of it I felt I was doing on my own, and I wanted to connect to other men who have given me that sense of brotherhood as well. Yeah. You know, that sense of connection. And when someone else is doing their work, you know, I'm learning from it. You know, I'm lit up from other people's work. Yeah. It's not just about me doing my stuff. And obviously I've got stuff to share. And but that just, that's an amazing, leveler, an amazing connector of men that are really, have recognised that, you know, there's more to being a man than my family demands of me, that my society demands of me, that my job demands of me. You know, there's a unique process going on, and how do I balance this without having other men that I can honestly and openly show my vulnerabilities to, you know? And in that process, as I show it to someone else, it opens up a lens and a window for me to learn. So, I mean, it's just so valuable, Yeah. I mean, there's many things, but
It's a great testimonial.
Yeah.
Get a snippet of that. Yeah, beautiful. Well said, man. It's amazing. I think a lot is being asked of men at these times. I think the world is changing. It's changed radically, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. I think identity shifts for men. What it once was to be a man, you know, a few generations ago, is not that anymore. And I see an identity crisis happening for men. Men are questioning their role in the home, in work, and rightly so. Women are, you know, rising up economically, socially, and fucking celebrating that, because this work is not just for men. It's to enliven the feminine within us, and to match that and meet that polarity in and without. Men's work for me is about activating from within what we didn't receive from without. That's a huge piece, I think, that can get overlooked. There's a great book from James Hollis. He talks about lots of different aspects, but the kind of, anything that we repress or deny or don't accept about ourselves, and that's what people would say good and bad, but I wouldn't say there's good and bad. I would say there's possibilities and consequences of everything. And I'd say anything that we don't accept or think is not worthy will go into a shadow of our psyche, and we will then judge it, shame it in ourselves and others, and it will end up causing a lot more tension than it needs to. And I don't think we can be a happy, whole, healthy human unless we start to look at that stuff and start to see it for what it truly is, which is a lot of fear and a lot of repressed emotion and narratives stories, beliefs that we've started to, from a young age, I think, relate to differently, and it doesn't serve us. You know, there's mentioned the polarities of masculine and feminine, because the integration of that is so important and fundamental, I think, to this work. I want to develop a framework around that, because I think the feminine sides of us, we already have certain narratives about, and stories that we are not that, and of course there's a spectrum of this stuff for all of us, but to really come into balance, like, we have to integrate that stuff. Like, we are connected to the earth, and the mother wound is massive for men, and it causes a huge disconnection to our own feminine and the world that we are sustained by. And that might feel quite out there and a bit like kind of, I guess, what's the word? It's a bit more philosophical, but it's very real. I can be very practical when it comes to this work. I think it's so important to belong to a group of men that care about you, care about your wins, care about your challenges, but really want to support you. I think if people don't have access to that, I think at some point in every man's life he needs to belong to a community of that. But you know, people have preconceptions of what it means to be coached or to be in these arenas, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of like, people that have made up their minds about what this is. But there's so many expressions of it, and that's why I love men's work. It's a concept, and you might call it somewhat therapeutical, but it really is different, and there's a lot of different expressions of it. So
I think a good way for me to put a label on it, if I was going to put a label on it, is evolution. It's the evolution of not only men but us as human beings. And you mentioned so much there. You spoke about that early belief systems, what we adopt from externally, what become our belief systems, which become my belief systems, certainly about, what a man looked like and what a man should be like. And I had that sensitivity as a child, and it just really was excruciatingly, I wasn't born in the right place to have that. And at the time I thought that, and I tried to escape that. And that sensitivity for me was I become a soldier. I could go through anything, and I went through anything, and I eventually detached from all of that stuff completely. That was my unconscious mission, to detach from all of that. So it's such a big part that you talk about the femininity, and I take that example as me allowing myself my sensitivity, my beauty and stuff like that. And the journey to go back on that and to get that was just massive. And that is the arc of that book that I wrote, about going back to reclaim that, because I'd lost it. I didn't even know what it was that I'd lost, but I had, there was a feeling that there was something that I was missing, and, everything about my being was telling me that I needed to find what I'd left behind. And, it was simply in those terms. It was like, I don't know what's missing, but there was something in my humanity that was missing. And so to go back and connect to that feminine part of myself, which you're talking about, is just opened so much. It opened my creativity, it opened my ability to love.
Yeah.
It opened my ability to even allow myself to feel the pain of grief and loss.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff that, I just wanted to avoid with drugs and life and everything else, and managed to a greater extent. But actually what I was doing was just denying the journey that I was meant to have in this life, in this skin,
sure. Yeah.
And
that's what it is. The feminine is feeling, right?
Yeah.
It is the emotion. The feminine aspects of ourselves is purely emotion. Everything that's moving is generally feminine, and anything that's holding or directional structure is going to be the masculine. I think a lot of people have misconceptions of what the feminine means, but it really is emotion, and to connect to that is so important. You cannot lead yourself or others if you do not connect with your emotion. And because how can you attune to people if you can't feel them, or if you can't feel yourself? More importantly, if I can't feel the depths of pain, like, I'm not going to be able to feel that in others. And how am I going to have that attunement and that safety and trust in a relationship if I'm not holding space for that within me? The depth that I feel myself is the ability to feel others in that same way. It's like you cannot love someone if you do not love yourself. It's going to be a very symbiotic relationship there. So whatever we cut off and don't have access to, we're not going to be able to see or provide that for others. But more importantly, and I think gets overlooked, is that we tend to judge that what we don't accept about ourselves in others. Yeah. And this is the psyche kind of works. We start to project, and it's a great way to do some journaling to understand ourselves a little bit deeper. Is like, what do I not accept in others? Because it's easier to see it in others rather than see it in ourselves. We will constantly justify and kid ourselves into thinking that we're doing the work and we're complete and we're whole. We don't need anything else. But what do you actually not accept? And what causes you a lot of emotional charge, or just kind of reactivity? And that's been one of the best ways to actually understand myself way more. Is that, I do that thing. So anger for me was associated as being like my father was. And I started to I don't want to be like that. That's not me. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be angry. And then someone's clumsy. Someone does something over here. And I'm like, I'm feeling so much anger. And I suppress it. I cut it off, disconnect from it. Instead of healthily naming it. Okay, it's there. It's okay to feel this. It's so human. But yeah, I wanted to add that.
That's our lived experience is our best example, really. Of, for me, we can all gain knowledge, and we do gain knowledge, but without integrating that knowledge into how we show up and how we live our life, what is it? It's knowledge, For sure. And as you said, there's so much information out there.
It's easy to be intellectually vulnerable.
It's the real part is the integration of that, which you was just talking about.
Yeah, it's everything.
And personal, for me, personal experience is really showing, is leading in a way that's I'm doing this stuff. I'm feeling these feelings. I'm recognising that I'm judging that person, and as I'm recognising that I'm judging that person because I've built some awareness, then I can reflect, why am I judging that person? What is it within me that... And I had it in the circle, when someone put a video out about something, and I was projecting my values onto what that person should be, or how that person should be showing up. And there was no right or wrong about it. It was just I realised that actually they're my values that I'm projecting, and I'm holding this person to a standard that maybe is not relevant to them in their lives, but what's so different about me that I think my standard is overrides theirs. So just looking at that process is that's my ego there. That's my ego telling me that, actually, you're right, and they don't know what they're talking about. you know, when you bring it down to that sort of level. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing is when you're talking about doing this work, this work of using these tools, these mechanisms of like finding out what's going on for you, you know, or us as we journal this stuff. I mean, they're so valuable to look at that, you know, what am I projecting out on other people? And what is it telling me about myself? You know, it's just, it's brilliant stuff. And it's stuff that people, you know, who are not in this kind of openness would not even contemplate or think about.
Yeah.
You know, because their story is that they're right and everyone else is either wrong or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And I think it all come back down to the why also. It's a big part. Like, what's the why? Why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? Because if you can connect to your why, you will go through any how. You'll go through the pain and the discomfort. So I think it's important to have that why of, you know, why is it important to you to do this work or to be curious? You know, what is really the root of that? Because that'll make us through. That'll get us through the fucking challenging times, because it's not easy and it's not comfortable. But yeah, there's something I wanted to say there about over-individualizing in this work, which I think it kind of came up in the group the other day. So it's very much on my mind. I'm very focused on taking responsibility, bringing it back to myself, taking ownership, accountability, and really being in alignment with what it means for me to be in integrity, which means, you know, my thoughts match my words, match my actions, and everything that follows, and being consistent with that honesty. That's important to me. And since moving to London, I realized that it's not important to everyone else. And it's a very different thing to what does it mean to be honest? Can we really be honest in these systems and these workplaces that demand lots of us, and we have to somehow get through? Because our honesty is not welcome everywhere. It's not actually going to be preferable everywhere. There's such a spectrum of truth. But what's real for you, and this is what I see and notice time and time again, is people start to kind of dim that voice and just like not listen to that intuitive sense of, oh, that didn't feel good for me. Oh, but, you know, it's my job, got to do it. Well, you know, I don't want to cause conflict in the relationship, so I'll just not listen to that. It's so detrimental, because we start to do that, and the compound interest of that is going to really impact us as men, as people. And I'm seeing it sometimes within myself, and it's what's lately causing a bit of disconnection, a bit of dis-ease, like silencing that voice. And I'm like, no, like I'm feeling something. I need to express that. I need to have a place. Might not be in the workplace that I can express it, but I need to go somewhere to like share this and just like validate it, because everything's real, but not everything is true. Yeah. So for me, that's a huge piece. But I preface with the over individualization, because I'm very focused on what I can take responsibility for, and I have the discipline to do that. But discipline without devotion can be like stifling, or just over individualizing everything, which means like focusing on I too much. And I agree, we do that a lot, and it's very common in a lot of the coaching and therapy spaces. So like devotion is important. Like, what am I devoting myself to? What am I like putting outside of me, which is actually the most important? What's the connection to like a collective experience, or something I'm really like, working towards, or just giving myself up to? And that might be organized religion, or it might be something a bit different and a bit more inclusive and like, kind of grand, I guess is the word. But praying and having that connection to something outside of me is one thing that
so powerful.
One thing that I think is coming back around, and people are doing it a lot more, and I want to normalize that.
I mean, I've been doing it, since I got into my recovery journey, which was 38 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I tentatively heard about this praying stuff, and up until that point, I think I was my own God, just because I didn't recognise anything outside of myself. But, yeah, so that's a really important part of what I found of moving stuff out the way, moving stuff out the way. And I'm going to get back to that intuition that you just spoke about, because that was such a big piece, I think, listening to your intuitive voice and not dimming it down and not silencing it and not, because there's a loss there. There is a loss, and it is, as you said, hugely detrimental to ourselves, but also to the person that we are and how we show up. I mean, the more that I can be me, the more that I've learned to be me, the more the gift that I give to everyone else that I meet, rather than being a kind of version of me that I think I need to be to interact with these people. And I get what you say about these whole systems, these environments, they're not geared up to this level of self-honesty and this level of just self-observation. And the interface is difficult because, it's not always welcome. It's not always welcome. So, but the value, and you were speaking about the bigger picture, what's the why of this? The value is that, once I've seen this stuff and I've recognised it in me and I've looked at my life and seen, well, my life was pretty like unconscious, really. I was unconscious. And I was out there doing what I was doing. I was earning a lot of money. I was, doing other things with family and that, but unconsciously to a great extent. And I think the real piece is that, when I've got this level of, I've recognised what's going on, and, the truth is on different levels, and I get to a level of truth and then I find a deeper level and I'm just like, wow, there's a deeper level to this. For me to live in that and to use that to integrate into how I talk to people, how I have this conversation with you or someone at the corner shop or, whatever it is, it's so valuable. And I got this that I've developed myself, this just understanding that from my own experience, from my lived experience and observing other people, that, my ego is an operating system, and it's a powerful, powerful operating system, and it's obviously been put in there for survival, as part of this human experience. But as things have changed, my ego was just, it was self-perpetuating, and there was a part of me that I silenced that was probably in that feminine part of me, that intuitive part of me, that sensitive part of me, that vulnerable part of me, that I've regained access to. And now I see how I live my life as, I can choose to live in the ego, and I recognise the ego. And that little example I just gave you was the ego projecting out, about that thing in the men's circle. But, there's this other part of me, this intuitive part of me that really hasn't got a win or lose scenario to it. It's not about am I right, am I wrong? It's just like feels the part that is really truth, is a deep truth. And the more I learn to integrate and live from that part of me, the more beautiful my life is, the more open it is, the more connection I've got. So I think it's just such a big piece that, to recognise, not to silence that, not to dumb that down, but to encourage that part of ourselves, to encourage that intuitive part. Because it's not, it's beyond the ego. It's not about winning or losing. It's about, a feeling from our being of like, this is the way to go. This is what my choice should be. This is, and there's a lot of uncertainty in that, but it's just to tune into that energy. It's just such a big part.
Yeah, the ego wants certainty. The ego wants to cling to things. It wants control at times, often. And to let go of that is
the work.
The work. It takes trust.
Yeah.
And the great unknown, and just admitting that you don't know. I think people are afraid to even say those words.
Fear thing, the fear thing's there because it's like, letting go of those systems that I believed was going to get me through this experience, to have the courage to let go of those systems.
For sure.
is it's big stuff for human beings, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sitting here across to a man that is practicing this stuff in his life, and I see it, and, you know, I see the work that you give into the community, into the Men of Earth community, into the other stuff that you do,
there.
you know, the coaching, all of it. And it's so powerful. And I know it's a challenge because, you know, it's not always recognised, it's not always rewarded. You know, we don't all, you know, financially, it's not like something that, you know, it's a challenge. It's hard, but you know, the why, you know, what is the why in it? What do you really believe at the heart of that is why you're doing this, why you've taken this direction in your life, and you're trying to do this work? You know, what is that?
The question.
The question.
What is it?
What is your why? Yeah.
What is my why?
What's your reason?
Because I believe it's everything.
Yeah.
I believe it's how to connect and be more human, right? And the why is, I've just witnessed the impact and the transformation that takes place in these spaces. I've witnessed it. I've felt it. It's the thing that supported me the most. Being around other people without the labels, without the identity structures, without anything but what's here, what's present, and what the heart desires. And we haven't really mentioned this kind of connection to our hearts.
Yeah.
But as men, I think that is the most powerful thing we can do, is to take that journey from the head to the heart. And that might be something someone's heard before. Great. Say it every day. Because the heart is so needed right now. For us to connect to our hearts, it's so important that we start to do this and just live from that place. Not from fear, not from control, not from the old paradigms of masculinity, but to really start to shape and shift a new paradigm for men. And I want to be a part of that. I've met and have close to me, you're included, incredible men that I can call upon in any moment of any day and just know that I will be met how I want to be met. I will be friended how I want to be friended, and I will be seen how I want to be seen, which is just with presence. If I ask for it, I'll ask for needs, and they might not get met, but that's also part of it. For men to just show up to that and to come back to the circle and just, create new templates for how we can live and thrive together. Yeah. And the medicine is connection. And it's coming back into connection with ourselves and each other.
Beautiful, mate.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Chris, that's been just an amazing conversation. Just before we go, I'd just like to remind people that, you know, if you want to follow Chris and me, just subscribe to my channel, the Cockney Prophet, and Chris's Men of Earth. Do you want to let people know?
Yeah, for sure. You? Thank you so much, Stephen. You're an inspiration. You really are. You represent someone really significant in my life. That someone that continues to do this work and someone continues to show up. You know, I know what it's like to produce a podcast. It's a lot of work, but you do it because you want authentic connection and conversations to be out there. And I just want to celebrate you for doing that. Not just the podcast, but just, again, continuation of your work, how you show up in the group. Like for 2 years, you've been so consistent and just like fucking in it, raw, sharing your heart, being vulnerable, and just in it. And there's still a part of me that feels guilty because when we had that phone call, I was judging whether this was right for you, and I was like, real big part of me just wants to be like, you're not gonna like find what you're looking for here. But you've provided so much for the community, and I'm so grateful for that. It's really significant at this time. So thank you. But you can reach me on the links in the description, or just you'll find me if you need to. menoferth.co.uk. Have my own podcast called the Chris Geisler Podcast. Soon to be shifting into a new version of something. Not quite sure yet. Do retreats, online circle, membership, and then one-to-one coaching.
Brilliant.
You can reach out.
Chris, thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Lots of love, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.